Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to the History Squad, and tonight we are staying in the George Inn, Norton St Philip in Somerset, in England. Said to be the oldest continually occupied inn in England. This isn't just any old pub. Behind these medieval walls there's 600 years of history, stories of monks, wool merchants, rebels and executions. Tonight we're going beyond the bars and the restaurants, beyond the guest rooms, to somewhere visitors are not allowed to set foot. High above, in the roof space, where there's 600 years of unseen history. So stick with me as we step inside and explore this most incredible medieval inn. Just before we go in, we're going to have a look at some of the exterior of this lovely old building. You see the jettying here, the way the building juts out, and it covers these steps. These are used for the coaches. So you imagine the coaches don't fit inside the inn or inside the courtyard. Horses can go in there, the coaches will go elsewhere. So you've got the guy on top, he needs somewhere to step off comfortable. And then luggage would have been put through here, down into the cellar that lies below. But if you look at some of the architectural features, and if you look up, you can see all of the carpentry just underneath the windows. But what I find fun is look at the coach room door. How many people have actually signed their names? These are interesting. This inn had to be secured, especially in this room. If you're storing all of the luggage of the travellers off the coaches, you got to watch out for robbers. So this entire building actually is well secured. So you imagine you're riding your horse along and you're going to go down through the main entrance. Look at this for an archway. And then the enormous door. So once it's closed for the night, the door will be fastened tight. You can't just ride in. So you bring your horse down here. Obviously he'll be led. You won't be riding it because you'll knock your head off. So on-site stables down through here. So your horse will be taken away by the groom and you can then get inside into one of those lovely bars, warm your feet, get yourself a room for the night. So it's 1232 that the Carthusian monks of Hinton Priory were granted the manor of Norton St Philip. And in one of their buildings here, they started to help traders store wool. And then they realised, hey, if we've got traders coming to the wool fairs up and down, we can offer them accommodation. They really were canny businessmen, these monks. So the George Inn was born, and it was literally built up on this cloth trade. In fact, Norton St Philip used to have a cloth fair, which was established in the mid to late 13th century. The George Inn, as we know it, was pretty much certainly built as an inn. Housed the goods for the merchants and the traders, also to give them accommodation. Wool was stored here. Apparently linen was sold directly from the building. Alcohol license given by the local prior was 1397, but in 1552 the government used to issue the licenses. So we can see there's this continuous business here as an inn. But the wool fairs continued here at Norton St Philip's till 1902. That's 600 years of trade in the George. At some point early on in the history of the George, there was a fire. Dendrochronology, tree ring dating confirmed that there'd been a major rebuild in 1431. When I think of that date, 1431, that makes me think 1415, the Battle of Agincourt. So bowmen returning from France, passing through here, could quite easily have stopped at the George Inn, Norton St Philip's, for a pint or to rest for the night. Do you know, I wonder if that's why I feel so at home. So we're just coming into what is now the restaurant. But I remember this differently. Early 90s, late 80s, I came here several times with my reenactment friends in the English Civil War Society. This room, I remember it being packed full of men and women dressed in 17th century costume, smoking their clay pipes, drinking their ale from flagons. The bar went across here. You can still see where the planks used to go, right the way across on barrels. You look at it now and it's still functional. It is still being part of the inn. It is a restaurant for travellers. But if you look up, suspended from the beams, this incredible roof, 3 barrels. I think they're firkins. That's a measurement of a barrel for ale. And you would order your ale, not by the pint, by the quart, a quarter of a gallon of ale. I love it. But the fireplace here. So this fireplace here, it's magnificent. Look at the size of it. And I've sat here chewing the fat with many a good old buddy smoking our pipes. This has been added here. But when I was here, the whole back could be seen. Those are the royal coat of arms of Charles I, if I'm not mistaken. But it's an inglenook fireplace where you have a place to sit in the corners there, just as the embers are dying down on a cold winter's night. You can imagine them steaming with their boots against the fire. There's something about this room, these stone mullion windows. They are actually magnificent. They let in so much light. But also then, your travellers sitting down in these seats, these settles. And these are great because although these are set against the wall now for the restaurant, you imagine turning them across and having them in front of the fire. So your back is to the draft and the draft doesn't come round the side. You can be nice and warm. They're not that comfortable to sit back, so you need some cushions, or you simply lean forward and have a chat. If you've got a small table in front of you, they can be very comfortable indeed. So what kind of people actually came to these inns? So in the early years, it's your wool merchants. They'd be on their pack horse and they'd come through as individuals, or maybe a string of them. Later on, when there was a way from Bath down to Salisbury, you will have travellers, and one of the most famous travellers coming down to Salisbury was Samuel Pepys, the diarist. 1668 in June, he stayed at the George and he visited the church in Norton St Philip, and he made a diary entry about it. But I have this kind of image in my mind that the place is packed. It's raining outside. You hear a horse pull up or a coach. A few minutes later, through that door, coming straight to the fire, are cold and weary travellers. The rest of them will be, hey, yeah, welcome travellers, and up goes the flagons of ale. But on the reverse side, you've got to watch out who comes through these doors. Remember, you need a stout innkeeper to keep out the less desirable, the pickpockets, the cut purse, right? And that's another thing. If you end up in a fight in here, you cause trouble, you'll be thrown out into the street, and there you'll be at the mercy of the elements or the undesirables that will be floating around, attracted to the fact that this is an inn. There will be horses, there will be coaches, there will be goods, there will be things to rob. It's the dark side. Now here, we're just going into what they call today the dungeon bar, though there's no evidence that it was ever used as a dungeon. It's interesting, if you come to the end behind the bar here, there's an archway here. This actually opens, or used to open out underneath the steps that go up on the outside. Or have you got steps? So a coach. The coaches don't fit down into the courtyard. They would pull up here. So I reckon this is where luggage was brought in. So this is quite a busy bit because it will be connected to the stables which are behind. But today, it's just this lovely private bar area. I love it. So I'm going to show you our room now, because we're staying the night in the Monmouth room. Come on, it's upstairs. Spiral staircase, be careful. You see these hasps here? I reckon there was a rope that went all the way through as a bit of a banister, so you can haul yourself up, especially after you've had a few beers. They've named these rooms brilliantly. Samuel Pepys, the diarist, he stayed here. King Charles's room. Sedgemoor after the Battle of Sedgemoor. And this is our room, the Monmouth room, because the Duke of Monmouth had his headquarters here and is said to have slept in this very room. Welcome. Just look at this. What a wonderful room. Of course, you can see we've got some of the mod cons have been added, like TV, lighting, heating. Because at the end of the day, this is a modern inn, a bit of a hotel. I think they've got 13 rooms, I'd have to check. But when you look at this room, the fabric of it, it's just mind-blowing. How many stories can this room tell? What has it witnessed? How many lovers have been in that bed? I understand that this room was actually used by Judge Jeffreys, the hanging judge, when he sentenced men to their death. But have a look at this here. In the late 90s, the entire hotel was refurbished and the archaeologists were let loose, and look what they uncovered. This is 16th century wall paintings. So they've preserved that piece, put it on display. But judging by the look of it, it goes all the way across this entire wall. But they've preserved this bit and left it on show. And it is quite incredible, isn't it? So Elizabeth I may have been on the throne when that was painted. And then, of course, to have a fireplace, the chimney's been bricked up now. We've got a radiator, but this, it kind of shows this was a very high status room. In fact, I was talking to some of the staff, they reckon that at one stage this may have been a bar. But if you were coming here in the 14th century, 15th century, and you're on your pack horse, you're coming in out of the rain, first of all, you've got to pay for your horse, for the stabling, for you. If you've got a servant, you've got to pay for him as well. And you might share a room with several other men. It's not as easy as you think. I was reading about it this morning. You imagine being an innkeeper. You've got to know how to fight, because you've got people coming in. If they didn't pay their bill in the morning, you had to physically throw them out and seize their chattels, all their equipment, their horse and that kind of stuff. If there was people fighting downstairs, it's down to you to sort it out. And the one thing you needed was a solid wife who can actually serve the ale and maybe knock some sense into some of the people. So it wasn't straightforward. So let's say you're staying here in medieval times in a room this size, actually in this room. You'd likely be sharing, because each room, each chamber, you'd find several beds, and each bed might accommodate 2 or 3 men. And the snoring and the smells, I must tell you, but this is a confined room. And you know, even women would be expected to share a chamber, but they didn't very often travel alone. And if a married couple come in and they'll turf you, if you're a single man out of your bed, give it to them. It's all this business of getting as many people into the rooms as you possibly can. And the beds, they were a simple wooden frame with the strung rope and a straw mattress that was covered in hemp or canvas. And if you're lucky, in a good inn, you might have a second mattress. In the best inns, you might just have 1 or 2 beds per chamber, and that second mattress might even be filled with down. A luxury. You will have a basin with water and a jug to wash your hands, face, and then your feet. As for a toilet, going to the toilet, there may be something under the bed, and that will of course be emptied by the servants. So this room is actually en suite. But where's the bathroom? And when I first come in, I never even thought of this, and I just saw on the wall over there on the panel, pull, and not expecting, I found the ensuite. And the door works perfectly. And there it is, the ensuite bathroom. It's perfect. But I wonder, you know, so years ago, was it a store cupboard behind there? Or was the room bigger? This place has chopped and changed so much. But I want to show you the windows. There's a bay window here, but it's actually got a false glazing, I suppose you'd call it, across the front to soundproof it. So, as I said, you know, you've got this other glazing, secondary glazing across, but you can actually open it. And when you stick your head in here and you see the age of this place, initials that were carved in here so long ago, they're fading. This is like a little capsule of history. Everything. Oh, it's just so wow. They got wooden pegs where things have been joined together. There's stays to reinforce the windows so they don't blow out. It is just amazing, isn't it? There is so much history here. And you know what? You can actually touch it. Wow. Right in front of the window is this old table with a brass plaque. The Monmouth table, at which, by tradition, the Duke of Monmouth dined when staying at the George on June the 26th, 1685, before his fight with the royal troops at Norton St Philip, and it was restored to the inn on June 26, 1928. So, the Monmouth room, got his table, he slept here, had his headquarters here. There's a lovely portrait of the Duke. Boy, look at these beams. These are so old. These are some of the original beams in the front of this part of the building for sure. And you can actually see different parts that have been repaired. You look up here on this beam. So a stone corbel has been placed here. But look at those staples. These solid iron. So this place is just one massive jigsaw puzzle of beams, walls that have constantly changed. And in the very beginning, much of this building would have been open on the inside. Great big rooms. I do know there was a big hall with galleries off, which would have been used by the wool merchants and the early travellers. But the most intriguing part of this building for me lies above our heads in the roof space. But I'll show you that in a little while. So we've just come down the spiral staircase and we're back out in the courtyard. If you look at the back of the front of the building, if you like, you can actually see stone mullioned windows. Some have been blocked up, archways have been removed. This is the medieval face of the building. And I didn't notice it at first, but it's quite incredible, so many things. And then this little tower here, that's for the spiral staircase that goes up to the rooms. It's excellent, isn't it? I love it, especially when you've got this right next to you as well. One of the most famous things that happened in this area was the 1685 Monmouth Rebellion. James II, brother of Charles II, against James, Duke of Monmouth, the illegitimate child of Charles II. It was a rebellion, and unfortunately the Duke of Monmouth lost the battle, 6th of July 1685. He was captured and beheaded on Tower Hill, just outside the Tower of London. What's really sad about this is the Duke of Monmouth was a popular man. He really was. Bit of a dandy, bit of a ladies' boy, a soldier, a brave soldier. He was much loved by the public. And many flocked to Tower Hill to watch him be beheaded. And it was the infamous Jack Ketch who was going to take his head off. And just before the axe fell, the Duke of Monmouth asked to feel the axe, and he says it isn't sharp. Jack Ketch said it's sharp enough, but the first blow, he missed the neck pretty much and cut through the side. What about you? Can you imagine the agony from that? Then he did it again, and he couldn't do it, and he was shaking like a leaf, and he says, I can't carry on, I can't do any more. The guards, the public were furious at him, and he was then ordered, you get on and do it. So that's 2 blows to the neck, another 3, and he still couldn't get the head off. In the end, he took out his knife and simply cut the head free. Jack Ketch had to be escorted from the gallows by the guards because the people would have ripped him to shreds, the poor old Duke of Monmouth. But it's what happened after the Monmouth Rebellion The King James II was full of vengeance and hate, and he sent Judge Jeffreys, the hated hanging judge, down into the West Country to hunt down and bring to justice the rebellious men, especially those in the West Country. It was known as the Bloody Assizes, and part of that assizes took place in this very building. 11 men, one by one, were led in and put on trial. Judge Jeffreys was a nasty piece of work. He would bully, even curse, until he got the right answer from the witnesses. And then when it was over, the 11 condemned men were led, lined up, as Judge Jeffreys on this very spot leaned out and pronounced the sentence, death. They were then led out of the courtyard, across the road, out into the orchard, where they were hanged until they were dead. But it wasn't just 11 men that were hanged, it was actually 12, because there was an innocent bystander who got too close, followed the men across, and was thought to be one of the accused, and hanged. So can you imagine the bloke? He's going behind everybody, and all of a sudden he finds that they're putting a rope around his neck. It'd be like a scene from Monty Python. No, it's not me, I'm actually, yeah, and they strung him up. But in truth, he was an innocent man. You know, something that is often missed when you see such an incredible building like the George is the roof. Those are stone tiles. Now, it's okay, you say, okay, they're stone tiles, they've been split and so on and so forth. But actually, if you come around a little bit and you see how they almost blend one roof into the other, it sweeps down, then across, and then up into another gable. Imagine the sheer weight with all of the timber, all of the stone floors, and all of the stone tiles. And yet, for 600 years, this building has been here. Well, what's holding all that weight up? What's beneath those tiles, hidden from everybody's view down here? Well, I've got a treat for you. I've managed to get the keys. Let's go up there and have a look. So we're going where the public are not allowed to go. Here we go. Oh my goodness me. This is just wow. It's almost as if you're lost in history, isn't it? As you step up those stairs, all of your own history disappears as you step into the world of those that have been gone hundreds of years. Wow. What a magnificent space. All of this, it's all of the arch-braced roof. But you've got your stone tiles on the outside, so the sheer weight on those beams, it's incredible. That plaster-like substance that you're seeing in the loft spaces is a historic roofing technique called torching. Before the invention of the modern roofing felt, a lime and hair mixture was applied to the underside of the old clay peg tiles or slates to seal the gaps and block the wind and drafts. So this floor is very uneven, so if the beams underneath have given and settled, so has the floor. This is actually a historic lime ash floor. In building conservation, these traditional upper story floors were crafted by mixing lime, coal ashes, clay and horse dung, would you believe? Now, during the restoration of the George, the archaeological investigations found that these solid, fire-resistant lime ash surfaces were laid directly across the older floorboards on these top levels. But look at this. Latham plaster, lime plaster, but that's on the outside, and then you have it filled with plaster on the inside. You know, it's incredible actually when you look up, because it is a cross section of how the wall is actually made, from the plaster on the outside to the lath and the business on the inside. Obviously a lot of repairs on the outside over the centuries. When you look at some of these beams, you can see that they've shrunk or they've moved, and they've been then iron shod so one fixes into the other for strength. If you look up, you can see where there's a shoe been placed on there and a plate going all the way up, so both of those cross beams are actually shod in now. So there's been a major repair there. And the way this is, this building will last forever. They keep on doing things like this. I mean, this is the apex of the building, and it's actually dry. Yeah, so 600 years worth of building, and it's still dry here. I reckon they knew what they were doing. So here you have a dividing wall. So that's a complete crossbeam. That is one complete piece of wood. So you've got this solid upright here. You can see where it's been plastered. Now, if you step underneath, you'll see the back of that wall, that room. So this is the back of that wall, smoothly plastered on the other side, but here the exposed beams. And you'll often see in houses where these beams have been painted black and the infill plaster is white, but this is it in its raw state. But can I have a look at these beams over here? Just to make a dividing wall. They haven't actually planed. These are just tree trunks of young trees that have been put in. Isn't that amazing? Well, I hope you enjoyed that video of ours. If you did, like, share and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel further, why not have a look at joining our Patreon community? The link is in the description. And before I go, quick shout out to some of our Patreon members, Trish McFerrin and Dan's Creative Creatures. Hey guys, thanks a million. But now an extra special thanks to Butcombe Brewery and also the wonderful team here at the George Norton St Philip. Hey guys, thanks a million.